Mike Love, local glow, sip of water. Here we go. Yeah. We on air now. Turn it up, sit back, vibe out. New day, new talk, no doubt. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We on air now. Real life, real laughs, real.
Welcome to another episode of Expressions of a Hairstylist Off the Record. I have two people here today that the entire world needs, and we are more than appreciative of them. We have Lance Burgess, who is an HVAC technician. I'm sorry, he's an HVAC service technician here in the city of Columbus. He has been for 28 years. We also have Donzel Watkins, who is an HVAC installer / technician, and he has been doing his work in the city of Columbus for 8 years. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. I always start the show off with good customer service. If we always hear about the bad customer service, Mr. Mean person was at the front, Miss Sally didn't want to be at work, we hear about that. But I like to talk about the good customer service. So if you have experienced any good customer service in the last 30 days, could you share that with us and the listeners? Because I think it's good to give shouts out for good customer service. Lance, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I received it. I think the good outweighs the bad. It's just the bad sometimes it gets more focused on. But I don't know any particular. I mean, there's a lot of different instances, but over the years, I've learned a lot actually from a lot of clients and customers, things that they may have learned as they grew up, that about credit and just life in general. Just different perspectives and stuff like that. And it kind of helped me just realize that people are still good people. There's still good people out there, because a lot of times, like I say, the negativity outweighs. Like when you look at the media or just different stuff, you can have a one-track mindset. But actually getting out there and meeting people, and I also like to let them meet me too, because they don't get to meet people that look like myself a lot. And then when they do meet me, they have a different perspective on things as well.
That's true. That's true. So I had like a restaurant or coffee, or have you been anywhere where you was like, okay, you know what? She was really nice, or he was really nice, and I appreciate them, respecting me and giving me good customer service. Have you been anywhere specific, like in the last 30 days that you could think of, like where it's like, you know what? Yeah, she was nice. She likes her job, or he likes his job.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a specific.
That's okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I'm no worries. Donzel.
Yeah, I went a little left to center at first because I thought you were talking about pertaining to the trade that we're in or whatever.
But no.
Just in general.
Just in general. Just you going somewhere to eat or to get coffee or get gas, and the person at the front seemed like they was happy to be at work, because that's what I like to see. Like, you know what I'm saying? I could tell it was like, okay, yeah, you like me, you like your job. You know what I'm saying? That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I actually recently, just last week, had a situation like that. I just bought a older truck, older Chevy Tahoe truck, 2001. So, I originally found out that I had to replace all of my radio system, speakers, subwoofers, everything in the car as far as sound goes. And I had to go to a store, it was called Sound Investments, just to get a better sense of what I need, what I don't have for the truck that may be needed, anything aftermarket wise. And the guy, as soon as I walked in and explained to him what I already have as far as equipment that I bought, whether the speakers, the amplifier, subwoofer, wiring, whatever, I brought him out to my truck, showed him what I had, and of course he, was very truthful and honest with me about everything that I had, whether it was junk, or if it was something that we could actually use for the install. And once he explained everything, I definitely felt discouraged, but after we left from my truck and went into the store, and he explained more in detail with everything, it better helped me understand what I really need for my truck as far as sound and what I don't, necessarily need. Not all the bells and whistles, but he explained everything from the wattage to the clear sound when the radio is coming on, the wiring, trying to keep things out of sight, out of mind, just in case if you have kids in the car or animals. And he helped me a lot actually, and he could even tell himself that I was starting to get discouraged off of what he was telling me and the information that he was giving me. But me explaining to him that I appreciated him, let him know, it kind of opened his eyes a little bit more like, okay, um, he's not mad at me for what I'm telling him, or he's not, going to be angry because of the pricing or whatever I'm explaining to him. He actually could tell I was more acceptant to what he was explaining to me, and he even took the initiative to take me back to their shop, which they don't typically do, to show me someone's vehicle that they're already working on, putting a sound system in, and show me what all I actually need for my truck, and they're doing the same thing for somebody else's. So he was kind of trying to show me what is going to be needed and how it's actually going to happen, and what it's going to take. So
He
I
was thorough.
appreciated it. Yeah, he was very, very thorough. I was appreciative of that. And he also let me know, like, I used to have a truck like yours, so I too know what it feels like to have to grasp and wrap your head around all of what you have to replace just to get the sound that you want in your car. So
What was the name of the place that you went to again?
it's called Sound Investments. It's located
Sound
off of East
Investments.
Main Street. Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of in the Whitehall area.
Well, shout out to Sound Investments for being detailed and thorough and doing everything he could to make you feel comfortable, because that was good. That's good customer service right there.
Yeah,
That,
people don't
especially
typically
if he
do
could see
that.
the look on your face and see, that you're starting to get discouraged and kind of turn it around. That's good. So shout out to them. Okay,
Yeah.
so when people think of HVAC, they usually think of just a broken air conditioner, right? So, can the two of you share a part of your daily job that would completely surprise a person that's not in the industry? Lance, I'm gonna start with you.
I think the most part that will surprise people is how much the weather like really affects our day-to-day job, basically. Not only just the demand of if it's hotter or colder, but a rainy day, it just kind of just ruins the whole day. Snowy day ruins the whole day, having to drive around town and deal with the weather and traffic and all that. And then not knowing, like most people go to work, they know where they're going every day. We don't know what side of town, what kind of job, whatever, it can be something different every day, somewhere different, new, like a different location every day.
Yeah. So the both of you were surely glad you were off yesterday when the hailstorm came through.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a terrible,
Yeah,
it was quoted on our phones as being a thunderstorm,
yeah.
but I'm witness to it that it was more of a hailstorm, so much so that when I was at work, it literally blew the door open and slammed it shut. So that was
Yeah.
not just a regular thunderstorm, that was a hailstorm. So for sure, I'm glad, I know both of you were glad you were off. Donzel?
um, as far as the getting there, I mean, kind of to piggyback off of what Lance is saying, for me, it's a little bit different. With me installing most of the time, we don't know where we're going, still on the day to day. But for me, once I do figure out where I'm going to be or what side of town, then I'm there pretty much the majority of the day. I say at least we typically, as installers, would say 6 to 8 hours, 8 hours being the max of what we want to be at the home, but we could be there longer. But when you're going to check out a AC specifically, or I'll speak on experience from the times when I'm helping out with the service side. A lot of times you don't, really know what you're going into, even, with the knowledge that you have. Everything happens different with the components and electrical things that are built into the equipment. So, 9 times out of 10, you may be thinking that you're just going to check out an AC and do a diagnosis, but it could turn into the AC being, it maybe need to be replaced or repaired, or it can go from that to you having to go inside and figure out what's going on with the furnace. So it could be, just the AC, or it could be you going in to figure out if the whole system has an issue. So um, I think it really just depends. Every situation is different, and that's one thing we always have to keep in mind. Some jobs are more challenging than others.
And it's far more complex than just my air conditioner is
Just
broken in
yeah, my
July.
air conditioner is just broken and
Yeah,
it just
it's
needs fixed. It's
yeah,
not that
it's
easy.
it could be far more complex than that. Well, good. Now I hope listeners learn. Okay, so Lance, you're essentially considered a mechanical detective, if you will. Can you like walk us through a time where you were able to diagnose a problem and everyone else was just kind of stumped, they couldn't figure it out, and you managed to put all the puzzles together in your mind and was able to figure out the problem?
Yeah, that's something that kind of I'm often faced with being a more tenured technician. But the biggest thing is just thinking outside of the box and not, you know, looking past the basic things, and then just going through the sequence of operation of how things work and seeing where things are kind of off a little bit. A lot of times, that's the biggest thing is just knowing how it works and then seeing how it's not working and what's actually going on. Like, is it getting a call from the thermostat? Is it trying to come on? Is it, knowing what's supposed to happen first, second, third, fourth, so on and so forth. That often helps. And then just kind of a lot of it is experience too, just knowing things, weird things can happen sometimes that are kind of off the cuff. And you just remember from things you may have seen years ago that remind you of it or whatever. But the biggest thing is just thinking outside the box and just going through the sequence of operations.
Well, I mean, that's good that you have your own system to be able to figure that out. If you it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3 didn't work. Okay, so let's
Right.
go to 4A. You know what I'm saying? Before we go
Yeah.
to 5C, let's go to 4A and see if we can figure out. I mean, that takes some mental skill. You know what I mean? That's not just that like sitting there thinking and resolving and trying to figure it out in your brain.
Right.
Now, me, I probably would have had to pick up a piece of paper because I just work like that and
Yeah.
start
I
writing
mean,
stuff out.
sometimes we have to do that, or read the book to the manual on some of this newer stuff. It's real complex, so sometimes you have to do that too, or go online or whatever.
Yeah. And Donzel,
But
so when as an installer, it's considered to be artwork, right? At least
Correct.
I think it
Yeah,
is.
correct. It is.
Yeah. So when you're doing like your when you're done with your duct work and your piping and everything looks like it's neat and it's where it's supposed to be, do you kind of stand back and acknowledge and appreciate the work that you've done?
Yes, definitely. That's a almost a everyday thing. It really kind of is an everyday thing for the most part. Um, the beauty of that, though, on the other side of it, is that we actually get to take pictures and see what it looks like before we get started, all the way up until, we'll take pictures when we first get to the job, see what all we're looking at, what we have to do. And then once we rip everything out and you start to, tie all the equipment back in, ductwork, return air drops. If we're doing new builds, then it could be registers, trunk lines, different heat runs. And we also take pictures at the end. So you get to see the before and after. And when you stand back and really pay attention to every small detail that you actually put into the job, you're more appreciative of, your work and your craft. That's how you really look at it. Every job is different, so you can run into several different things during your installs, but to be able to kind of transform what was originally in the home to something else, or it could be, or not necessarily a home, it could be a business or a store or hair salon of that sense. But just from you being able to see the difference from how it looked before as opposed to when you're done, it's a huge transformation. It's like really like a remodeled home or building in a sense. Is just the equipment is all brand new, the ductwork, the piping, everything. So it's definitely art. It's crafty in a sense, mechanically, I
Absolutely.
guess, if you want to say.
Absolutely. So when people walk in and they look up and see all that work, put some respect on it because it is definitely, it takes a skill, it takes experience, it takes, to me, clarity of the eye as well. I don't even do it, right? Not going to do it, but
Yeah.
I respect it. When I walk into stores and stuff sometimes and I'm looking up, I'm like, yeah, Donzel and Lance. Even if it's not y'all, I still say the same thing, you know?
Yeah,
But
and on the flip side to that, a side note to that is the reverse effect. If it's not presentable, a lot of times we can
Yes.
go into a job that we didn't do and see it and say, man, this is messed up, or they didn't do this XYZ. And, so that's a thing too,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know.
fact. That actually, to piggyback off of what Lance is saying, that actually will keep you kind of more focused and kind of tight with what you're installing and making sure you're not doing what you see somebody else should have done, or it should have been done by code, or you know just by the specs of the installer, how the equipment is supposed to be installed. So yeah, that's a huge fact because we see that every day.
so now how do you tell? How do you tell a homeowner or someone like, hey, I just want to let you know, like that's, because I mean, take us through that really quick. If it's bad ductwork, like eventually is that going to affect something else or is it's just bad? They just didn't, they just didn't take the time to do it properly, or it was a rush job, or it was just sloppy, or I mean,
Mhm.
do you tell the people that or do you just let it
You,
go? Like how does that go?
I mean, you can definitely well, sometimes the customer might notice it before you notice it, and they'll have questions way before you even get to their home. So sometimes it plays out like that. Sometimes you can see it. What I try to do personally, I try not to throw anybody under the bus, whether it's somebody from my company or a totally different company, because I don't know them. I wasn't there during the install, so I don't know what problems they had or what they could have went into, or ran into. So I don't technically try to down talk the next person. I'll just explain to the customer how it should have been installed, and if they want to speak to a manager or salesperson that can be able to maybe give them a quote on fixing that specific part of the ductwork or equipment, then I'll do that. That way, nobody's been thrown under the bus. They're not calling the other company like, "Hey, you did this. This is what they told me." And instead, we're just going to point you into the right direction so that we can fix the problem now. I don't know what happened beforehand, but we'll fix the problem now, and that way, moving forward, it will be correct. Um,
Very
but yeah,
good.
I don't ever like to,
Yeah.
let them know like it wasn't done right. You need to call them and tell them that you need your money back now, because it can affect the home over time, depending on what part of the equipment it is, and then at that point, it doesn't matter. It needs to be fixed. So.
Yeah, that's something that you want to stay away from also, because I've known people that have been in the middle of lawsuits do this stuff like that, like, commenting on things that like another company may have done, and then they call the company and then they mention it to them, and then it just kind of can get ugly. But if it has something to do with what you're actually there to do, sometimes it's hard to avoid it. You know what I mean? If it's something that wasn't done, I had a situation one time where on a service call even, um, it was an older lady. It was the middle of winter, and a guy from another well-known company that's known for like doing people wrong. And I know that, and people mention them all the time, and I don't, feed into it or say what I know or feel about them. But this guy had left these wires loose and cut some wires and did a bunch of messed up stuff, and the lady just called us to say the heat wasn't working. And I instantly knew somebody had been working on it. So I went up and asked her just so I wouldn't get accused of doing that. And she's like, yeah, well, she broke down and just told me, yeah, this other company was out, but they wanted to charge a bunch of money. And I'm like, well, where are the other pieces to this wire? And the screws was missing, all kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so she said, well, I don't know, but I'm gonna call and ask them. And I had kind of stepped into that time, but that was kind of unavoidable because I couldn't do my job without things being right.
based
And I
off
said,
of what
well,
they had already
and it
done.
would have
Yeah.
created more labor for her for me to actually fix that what he didn't do right.
Mm.
He wasn't even there to fix it. He was just there to diagnose it and
Mm.
took a bunch of extra stuff apart and cut wires that shouldn't have been cut and all kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
she actually had to call them back, and the guy came back and put it back allegedly like how it was supposed to be. I mean, he did it to the best of his ability, and then I came back and fixed it like the following day or whatever. But
Well, that's
yeah, so
good. I mean, my thing is good that you went in because she probably would have never known that
yeah,
things were the way they were, and you can't do your job with it being like that because you don't
right,
want to be liable for some previous work that you didn't do. So that was good. I mean, I can understand that. Piggyback off of Donzel, like, you never want to mention, the previous
right.
company or whatever, but you do want to guide them in the right direction. And this is no comparison to what you do, but there's been some pretty bad haircuts. And
I'm
so
sure
it's
you
just
see
like,
that
okay,
too.
well, next time, just suggest that, they watch this cowlick or, they
Right.
fade it a little bit more,
Yeah.
so I understand. I didn't even ask who cut it previously. I just,
Right.
let the parents know, hey, this is so I could definitely understand that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So many people enter adulthood carrying massive college debt. Uh how did getting into HVAC allow you to start earning a great living quickly? And what does financial independence look like in this field? Donzel, I'm gonna start with you.
Um, as far as getting into the field and the financial debt, I mean, I feel like that's gonna come. Either way, it doesn't matter what you're in school for, it's gonna be some debt behind it. But um, I feel like for me to be able to get into a career field quickly as I did within a year or maybe a year and a half, that's pretty good to be able to do, and for you to be able to start making money like right away as soon as you start, working there. Like even though you may not be completely inclined with everything that's going on, you're already starting to make, a good amount of money for what you're doing. So me starting off doing that and being told by different people, that the money will eventually come. You just got to keep working at it, keep learning, and it'll all come to, me being, doing it for 8 years now and actually seeing the outcome of it is definitely worth it. Um, the debt thing, you kind of don't, there's nothing that you can really do about that until, you know, once you start making money, then you can set up whatever payments or whatever you need to go ahead and take care of your debt. That's really all you can do. I don't really feel like there's much else to, there's not really much else to it. That's the only way to go about it. It will help you though with the job being in this specific field. You can make a great amount of money over time. So, you know, uh, debt that you may think you might have been paying on for the rest of your life may only be, who knows, for maybe 1 to 5 years or so. Maybe a little bit more, but it gives you time to be able to pay it off, and you won't be paying on it forever. Um,
Managing the money
yeah,
well.
you're able to manage your money well. Um, as far as the financial independence is just you really got to be very, very focused on managing your money correctly, because making a lot of money in this field, as quickly as you're getting the money, it can go right back out the door. So you really got to be diligent about how you are managing your money, and um, in this field, you also have to, spend a lot of money on tools and things over time. So you also have to take an account of that for that as well. But for me personally, that's how I've always looked at it, and I always explain that to, younger guys that talk to me about it or ask me questions about it, just so it doesn't discourage them, because that's not really it is something big because it's debt, but it'll be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, so sounds like what you're saying is the guest that I had on last week, she's a certified financial planner, and she said, try your best not to spend $800 a month on DoorDash when you're making good money. Lance?
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Um, for the debt thing, I think you're gonna have to pay for school, but it's a definitely a great alternative trade for or field to get into versus going to a 4-year college, because it's not as expensive as that. And another good thing, I don't know about making money quickly. That's kind of because I've been doing this for so long, and people always stop me, or when they see the truck or when they know what I do, everybody assumes HVAC a lot of money, but you don't get it right away. But the one good thing is that you get to start working in the field and earning money and learning at the same time versus like a doctor, you go to school forever, not forever, but for 8 to 10 years or whatever, and don't make anything. And then you make a lot of money when you first get into it and you don't know anything. You just know what you learned in school. With this, you actually learn and earn at the same time. You learn in trade school the basics, which you can get straight out of trade school and you can't fix a thing because you really don't know anything until you get out there. You learn on the job. That's the best way to learn. And and then any type of apprenticeship program or mentorship program or whatever, so you get somebody that can teach you the right things in the right ways, and then you put in the work and then you get the money. That's basically how that works. You don't just get into HVAC and make a lot of money. I think a lot of young guys get into it and they think that. That's just kind of just from what I get from people. They think, oh, you get into this, you're going to make a lot of money. And that's not necessarily true. I actually took a pay cut when I first started, like it was almost 30 years ago, but I made $8.50 an hour. And I took a pay cut coming from, I worked at the Limited in the warehouse, and I took like a $2 or $3 pay cut because I knew it would help me in the long run. But I was able to offset the pay cut by working more overtime and working more hours. So I would work 60, 70 hours a week. I ride with guys. I come in on the weekends, ride with people, learn, just trying to get to the top. Like, not to the top, but just to excel. And I liked it and I enjoyed learning and I was interested in it. But it was nice to be able to be earning money and learning at the same time.
And
But you have
and
to
yeah,
like it too.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, you was trying to get to the top of where you wanted to be. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's you were, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, on the job learning, getting paid to learn. I mean, to
yeah,
me, it just doesn't get any better than that.
right.
Like
And,
that's where, I mean, it's just like anything else. Like when I came out of college school, I mean, they taught me a lot, but starting to learn on the
right.
job and back and
Yeah.
forth and people coming in and they
Hmm.
see me now like, oh yeah, you're real fast. Well, I wasn't my third or fourth year, I wasn't fast. It'd be
Hmm.
almost 26 years now. I'm
Hmm.
moving faster now because I've been out there. So yeah, that on the job training is definitely, and even though you took a pay cut, you knew in the long run that it was going to
Right.
pay off for you. And you
Yeah.
was motivated,
Yeah.
so it sounds like you
Definitely.
were making it up with 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I'll mention but what I see with the younger generation, because this field really a lot of the old timers are fading away. When I came in, it was baby boomers that taught me, and they were old school, and then all of those guys retired within the first 5 to 10 years when I was in the field, and then even people in my generation are starting to retire or move on or out of the field and into different things. But there's not a lot of interested good technicians coming in under us. I don't see it as much. What I see that they mess up at a lot. What the younger generation messes up at a lot is just the basics. I mean, all you need to do is be able to be on time. I mean, just the most simple things you would think that they would get it, and they don't. Be courteous, have be able to talk to people, be respectful. Stuff that doesn't take using your hands and knowing how to figure out how to fix an air conditioner or a furnace. That can go a long way. If you have somebody like that, you can teach them and they can go far.
You
But
have
it's
to be
just
teachable.
those basic things. Yeah, but if you can't get there on time and you're not motivated and you're not paying attention and you're not gonna get far. You're probably not gonna get anywhere. You might as well go work in a warehouse or something at that point for real, because I mean it's not really worth it. You're just
Right.
wasting
Well,
your time
that's the
and
general consensus. You sound like a lot of other people that's saying the same thing. Like, I'm not really sure what it is or why, Well, first of all, first I wanted to say that there's not, I don't, I used to see it, but I don't see any trade commercials anymore. I don't
Yeah.
see any trade, ads coming through my social media. I used to see them all the time, and I would, when I was, cutting hair at Great Clips, there would be a guy come in and he was a tree trimmer. Another guy was an electrician. He's like, hey, do you know anybody? Because we need
Mhm.
people bad, da 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 da. There, they advertise for a lot of stuff, corporate this and IT and that, but you don't hear anything about HVAC. That's first off, you know what I mean? And a lot of the city, I don't know about the suburbs, but a lot of the city career centers, I'm not sure if they're talking about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they're even offering it. So first you even got to introduce it, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, for it to even get some notoriety. And then, okay, so let's work on just your whole mannerism. Okay, I need you to
Right.
get to school. You got to get to work on time. You got
Hmm.
to be able to speak and talk,
Right.
to people in a respectful manner,
Hmm.
So yeah, all of those. I mean, hopefully, because I know there's a lot of young people out there that would do good in this business if they had someone to tell them. There's
Hmm.
not even
Mhm.
there aren't even
I
very
was
many
just
people to even talk to them to say, hey, you're not going to go to a 4-year college. That's totally fine. You don't want to work in corporate. Totally understand. Have you considered a trade? Okay, let's sit down and go over the different trades that you might be interested in. First, you got to have somebody introduce it to them,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
before
yeah,
it
But
can
yeah.
it's
even.
funny how me and Donzel's story getting into this is the same way.
Yeah, I
Like,
was about to I was about
yeah,
to bring
yeah,
that up. Like we
yeah.
kind of
'Cause- and that just lets me know that it's not only us, it's tons of other guys out there in the same situation. Like, and I didn't even know this about him until after he started working and we was riding together and talking and he was
Well,
telling
share
me,
that. Share that
yeah,
with the listeners, Lance. How you got into the HVAC.
yeah. So like after high school, well, not to mention when I was in high school, HVAC was in the career center, but I was always told in high school, if you go to career center, you can't go to college. And me, just like a lot of other inner city kids, playing sports, I thought I was gonna go to the NFL. Like, I mean, like, so my thought is that you can't go to the NFL if you don't go to college. They're telling us you can't go to college, you go to the career center, which I learned later on that you could actually go to the career center and go to college. I don't know why they teach that in schools. That's very misleading. But anyway, I went away to college for a couple of years and played football for a little bit. Tried out, played on the team and did like spring ball and in the summer camp. And it just didn't work out. I got homesick and then I didn't have the funds, no support. I didn't have, my family didn't have much money to support me. So, I ended up coming home and that was very embarrassing. It was tough as a kid. You go away, everybody's rooting for you. You get the graduation party, people giving you gifts. You go away, and they telling you, oh yeah, you're gonna be the man, this, that, the other, and you thinking you're gonna go away and see them in 4 years and graduate, and then how to get some more gifts. But when you come back home, you ducking and dodging people. Like, oh, I don't want them to know I'm here. Like, yeah, I'm making up stuff and telling them this and that, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I was actually hanging out with some guys, and the guy that told me about the HVAC school I went to, he was like a criminal. He was in and out of jail and had a Fed case. And his probation officer was like, man, you got to get into something and do something. And he told him to go to the HVAC school. So when I was talking to him, we was sitting around one night and he was like, yeah, I'm in school for HVAC. And I was like, oh, yeah. And this is right when I had first dropped out of college and came home and was trying to find my way. And he's like, yeah, it's cool. It ain't that bad. And he was just kind of explaining the program, told me where it was. And I'm thinking, man, if he can, nothing, no offense, now I won't say who it is, but my thoughts was like, man, if this dude can do that, I know I can do it. You know what I mean? So I looked into it and went to the school. He ended up dropping out like after the first 6 weeks in the program. He wasn't even there by the time I got there. And he went back to jail and just got out of jail. But I went on to go there and got into it. And then, obviously the rest is kind of history. I got a job right out of school and never looked back. But yeah, so my point was that I know there's a lot of other people that went through that. I may have dropped out of school that feel like college is the only way, but that's not
Yeah.
true. I mean, even if it's not HVAC, it could be any other trade, plumbing, electrical, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just flabbergasted at the fact that somebody would tell you that. Like I've never even heard of someone telling students like if you go to a
Yeah.
trade school, you can't go to college. Like that doesn't even, I don't, there's no rationale for
Mhm.
them even saying anything like that.
Yeah,
Like
that was, I
I'm
don't
just like,
know
who?
who started that. It was just a myth in school. I remember hearing like if you go to Career Center, you can't go to college because I guess they meant you couldn't take like the college prep classes because it took you away from the time at school. But it's
Mm.
totally untrue though. I mean, and
And
it really didn't make a difference anyway because college wasn't for me and it's not for everybody. That's the
right,
point.
it's
Like,
not,
It's
it's not for
definitely
everybody.
not.
And you had an anointed, uh, I call them anointed appointments. Like you were talking to that guy who, he was
yeah,
just doing it because he had to,
right,
but
exactly.
then it set you up. You know what I'm saying? It was just for you. So it's like that was the perfect meeting. Like he didn't
Yeah,
even make it through. You know what I'm
right.
saying? But him telling you, boom, it got you there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah,
Donzel?
Yeah, I was gonna say, to piggyback off of that, yeah, I mean, Lance is really LB. That's this is he's the reason I'm even in HVAC. Kind of like I had one of my good buddies, a best friend that um he kind of seen how I was, you know, going to school. Of course, similar to Lance, I was playing ball, and playing football, and I was told I was going to be, this and that, and it makes you feel so great to hear it. And then I didn't go to like a 4-year college like a lot of my other buddies did or classmates did. I actually had to go to a junior college to kind of trying to further my football career in a sense. And doing that, sometimes you come out successful, sometimes you don't. So I actually went off to two different schools. I went to a junior college in California, City College of San Francisco. Played football out there for a little bit, and that was my first time ever being in another state by myself, without any family around. Granted, I had some family that lived in LA, but I wasn't close enough to them to be able to reach out to, go visit them or have them come to me or whatever the case. So you're by yourself. And similar with Lance, my family didn't really have the funds like that to be able to support me as much as they wanted to. They did the best they can, and I was always appreciative. So I never really paid too much attention to it. I kind of always tried to keep my mind focused on what I was there for and what I was trying to do, so that would kind of overcome everything else. But I definitely will have the homesick feelings. I had a bad homesick feeling actually, one particular time being in California, but I went from California. I actually had to come back home as well, and I hated it. I worked at warehouse jobs for about 5 or 6 months, and I went off to school again to Alabama, and I went to Alabama A&M, and I actually enjoyed myself there too. I was actually on the college campus in the dorms. Enjoyed myself. I loved the school, but again, I had some complications just with as far as money and the tuition, so I ended up having to come back again. And when you have to come back home a second time after going to college twice, makes you feel like you're completely like it makes you feel like at an all-time low. Like, yeah, you went off to do all these great things, but now you're coming back home. Not only one time, but this your second time coming home. So now you have to trigger something in your mind to keep you focused and understand like what you're going through is not forever, and things are going to turn around. You just have to figure out what it is that you can find to do outside of going to college that can help you for right now, so that maybe you can get back to that. So my college journey kind of ended there. Like I said, a good friend, a buddy of mine's, was working for Pickerington School District, working with the busing, and he actually reached out to me. Had some um, ties to Fortis College here in Columbus, and located off of Sunbury Road, and He actually talked to me about going there for HVAC, and I looked into HVAC, how much they made, how much information you needed to know to be able to do it, just different things, and it caught my eye, and my interest. And I've always been a guy that like to take things apart and put them back together, and that's with anything. So it definitely triggered me in my mind, like, okay, maybe I just need to go ahead and do that. So I got into it like that. Went through the schooling, did the year, did everything I could to learn everything I possibly could while being in school. Because it's like Lance said, it's the basics. And then as soon as I got out of school, they helped me find a job. They actually helped me get interviews. It just so happened that I happened to be close to Lance, him being a family friend and knowing me before I was even thought of or before I was even born. So, helping me and already working for a company and also been have doing it already for so many amount of years that he was actually able to kind of pull me in to the company that he was working for, let them know who I was and what type of guy they were bringing in, and I had the interview, and the rest is history. I we kind of been working together ever since. But one thing I will say with that is um, you have to have somebody in your corner in a sense that can talk to you about these things, because there's always somebody around you that has been through these same situations that you're either going through or that you've been through. So if you have a person like that that's close to you, that's you need to be talking to them every day about what it is that they know that you may not know that can help you move forward in your life as far as having a career job in general. Because I feel like young guys, they all the time they'll rather look at what these celebrities do, what's going on social media, how much money they can make in a little bit of time, but they don't have that big homie or that person that they can look up to, a mentor that can explain to them, like, yeah, all that glit and glamour, that stuff is cool, but what happens if all that stuff goes away? Then what are you going to be able to do, or what can you do? How can you support yourself and support your family if you have a family? And a lot of guys kind of get stuck on that. So, if you have a older person that you talk to or that you're cool with, that is a mentor, kind of pick their brain on different things as far as like having a trade, because that may be something that you may actually be interested in and you don't even know it. Um, and then once you get into it, it's going to further help you in life in general, because I'll say for me, HVAC, not only does it, I've learned a lot from doing it, but I've also learned on the backside personally different things that I can add to that I do with work, that I can add to my regular life. So I always said, like, as far as young guys, just kind of listen and try to get a better understanding of what certain things can do as far as trades, as opposed to going to a 4-year college or 3-year college that may make you hundred thousands of dollars and that sort. Because you don't want to have that $100,000 off the rip, as opposed to making $100,000 over time to where you can double it. So I feel like young guys always need to look further than just how much you can make in a little bit of time. I was like that too. I'm the in between. I'm Generation Z, so I'm the in between to the baby boomers and then the generation that we have now, and it's a huge disconnect. Nobody, the younger generation doesn't want to work. Um, they're real lax. They just think they can go make money fast and then that's it. But one thing I always tell young guys, as soon as they ask me about HVAC, the main thing I always say is, man, if you really want to get into this, you really need to make sure this is what you want to do, because it can help you over time. It can make you a lot of money over time. But the main thing, well, everything that's going on in the world now, this is one of the main jobs that a robot cannot do. So they cannot take over your job at all. This is something you'll know and have for the rest of your life. You can go anywhere in the world and work. Um, and it's just a great trade to have. But that's like a main thing. When we have world crisis and things like that, we're still going to be working. We're not going to be laid off or sent home or anything like that. We're needed.
as
So you
much
got
as
to
they
think of that.
as much as they want to. AI is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not necessarily going to replace it. And let me just say really quickly that I think as a community, we need to do better. We need to do better. If someone decides to pivot or and not saying that anyone in particular made either of you feel that way, but no one should feel ashamed or embarrassed about changing directions. Like you just gotta, is Les Brown. He's a motivational. See, if you're going in the wrong direction, just turn around and go the other direction.
Mhm.
Like people do it all the time. So, let me be the first to apologize. Like our community should do better. Like you should never, I knew corporate was not my friend. I tried to go to corporate twice and those people are miserable, they're angry, it's boring. That's just not for me. I don't want to do corporate. I don't care if you offer me 100 grand a year. I'm not happy there. I don't want to sit in that seat all day. It's boring. Don't
Mhm.
nobody want to be there. Those people are grumpy and angry. And so I knew, I'm like, okay, corporate, this is not it. So and it's hard. It is hard to know at 18, 19, maybe even 35 to know what it is you want to do with your life. Some people are in their 50s and they are still trying to figure it
Yeah,
out. Lance.
yeah, that's real. Yeah. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah. I
amen,
mean, they're
amen
still
you.
trying to, yeah, they're still trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like there's folks that still just on the fly every day, not knowing where they want to go. So I just, our community for sure need to do better at accepting people and accepting someone when they decide to go in a different direction or they pivot and say that wasn't for me, because those are feelings that neither one of you
Yeah, I
should have
think a lot
ever
of
had.
it was disappoint. I feel like I disappointed myself. Well, it was just like, and it was just the embarrassment thinking, when you're young and just not, you don't know where you go, which direction to go. You just think like, what are they gonna say or this or that. And like the older I got, the less I care what people think or say or do or whatever. But as a kid, it was really difficult. But yeah, you're
Pressure,
right.
putting the
More
pressure on
people,
yourself.
more people need to like embrace that and say it's all right. You're gonna be all right still. Because really,
Exactly.
as a young man, especially as a young black man, because the odds are against us. Um, if you keep your general morals, like you said, just having respect, being on time, knowing how to talk to people, all that can take you a lot, and keeping your record clean.
Yes.
All that can
Keeping your
take you
record
very
clean.
far in life. Like just that basic stuff right there. Because I know so many people that don't have those qualities or might have had a little ding on their record, and it just continues to haunt them the rest of their life.
Mm.
Something they did when they was 19, 20 years old, haunting them till they in their 50s.
Oh wow,
So
that's
yeah.
great. So can either of you share a story about a time you showed up to a house or to a business and the folks were miserable and desperate? They were hot. It's so hot in there, they didn't know what to do. And when you left, they literally, you know, you were the hero. Well, you hero anyway, but you definitely was the hero. Did they treat you like a hero? Did they show you they were appreciative? Is there a time you showed up where, they couldn't get an appointment? Because let's just be honest. Sometimes when you make these phone calls and you're looking for a Lance or a Donzel, they can't come in 2 hours, right? It's by appointment because there's five other people ahead of you or 15 other people. So you might have to wait, 3, 4 days before they can show up. So is there a story you could share about a time where you showed up to a house or a business and, you know, people
Yeah,
were doing backflips?
I'm sorry, I don't know who you have to say
Oh, no, go
first.
ahead. Yeah,
You can
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Lance.
Taking the
Go
You go
ahead.
lead
ahead,
on this
Lance.
one. But yeah, it happens so much. I can't think of a individual time because like I go to over 1,000 houses in a year. But it happens every spring and every winter and every summer. I've had people break down in tears and cry and hug me, and they'll give you tips and offer food and snacks and gift cards. I mean, so Yeah, it is a good feeling to know like that you can help people out, especially like in the middle of the winter, because like air is a luxury, but heat is a necessity. Even though people don't treat it like that, we're actually busier in the summer than we are in the winter. But in the winter, when you got people with a house full of kids, or you got to worry about their pipes freezing or stuff like that, and then when you're able to fix their heat on a nice cold day or night and get them back going, it is a good feeling.
Well, good. I'm glad they're appreciative of you for
Yeah, very
sure.
much.
Donzel?
Yeah, I've definitely had several different times where I could say I've walked out and the person's been happy or trying to hug me or trying to, like Lynn said, that I've tips, trying to give you food, cookies, drinks. I've had, I've
You
had,
hungry? Here you go.
yeah, I've had people, it could be late, I could be on call, running an on call, service call for them, and they could be
Beer,
cooking dinner.
wine.
Yeah, beer. That's all I was about to say. They'll offer beer, wine, some brand new alcohol that they
Yeah.
just bought from overseas, and they want you to have it. And yeah, so I've definitely been there and had that happen several times. I'll just say the main thing I try to let customers know when I get to them, or I typically, we call before we get there. We try to get a little bit of information. I always say, I can't promise you anything, but I'm going to try to do my best to make sure we get back on, whether it's the AC or it's the heat. And the heat, more so in the wintertime, I'm for sure trying to get the heat back on because it's freezing outside. They may have an infant or kids in general, or maybe an elderly person. So, I try to do everything in my power to help get them their system back running, but sometimes it doesn't always work out like that, especially if it's during the day. You might be able to service it and repair it, but sometimes it may not be repairable. You may have to actually get it replaced. And then at that point, you have to give them the bad news and let them know, like, hey, we'll have to come back. But, once we do, we'll make sure we get you taken care of. And 9 times out of 10, they're always super appreciative when you do get it fixed. And, like Lance said, they always trying to give you something for sure. That's like a regular thing. If it's not money, then they're trying to feed you or they're trying to give you something to drink.
I'm saying that heat coming back on and it's been off for 3 days, or it's hot. It's like, what kind of, you hungry? Here you go. What you like? You like, I got some sandwiches. Listen, I understand. That's good. That's good that they appreciate all that you do, because it's major. I mean, we're guilty of it, but your comfortability level. I know for me, like that,
Mhm.
I can't sleep when it's hot. So
Mhm.
my comfortability level, it matters. I want to be comfortable when it's time to go to bed. So I couldn't imagine, it's, -4 in my house and it's 10 degrees outside. So for sure. So what is the biggest myth about working in a trade that you want to completely debunk? Is there a myth that you hear, or a myth that you think that people carry around, and not just, trades in general, but specifically yours, that you're like, no, don't believe that. That's not how that go. Lance?
I think one of the biggest things is we get the reputation of being kind of like a shyster sometimes. You know what I mean? Like people think, oh, those
Yeah.
heating and cooling guys, they're just coming out here to get a bunch of money from you, and they'll sell parts because it's because of bad technicians in the past, just like an auto mechanic or anybody else. Um, a lot of times people think that all of the technicians are like that, but that's not true. You have good and bad apples in every trade. Police officers, um, auto mechanics, dentists, doctors, everybody. So,
Mhm.
you know, but we try to show them that it's not always like that or whatever. But I think some people, not everybody has that myth or whatever, but it is definitely out
That's
there for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say that's definitely like I think that's the main, I guess, myth in the sense that you can say for HVAC. That's like a major thing. Everybody always thinks you're trying to get over on them
Hmm.
or you're trying to sell them something else that they don't
Yeah.
need. And
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that's never the case. Um, I've been in the install side or the install department. I don't know if we really have any myths. That's really, like I said, that's probably the main one. That's for both departments. That's for, kind of all around. I don't really, that's probably the only myth in a sense I would say that we have. Everything else is kind of, I feel like it's either straightforward or something that needs to be explained so that the customer will better understand it. But that's about it.
hmm hmm And what do you say, Lance and Donzo? What do you say to those people that feel like, oh, I don't want to, they shysters, they're crooks, they're frauds. I don't want to go with them. I'm going to just buy it and install it myself. Or my brother-in-law, he knows this buddy down the way. He can guide me through what to do when I install it. Or, you know, what do you say to those people who feel like because they believe the myth that they want to try to do this themselves? Lance?
Good luck. 'Cause I've experienced it on the other side too, where people try to install a thermostat or change a motor or do something, and then it costs them twice as much because they got to call somebody to come clean up their mess that they tried to fix themselves. So, yeah, I just tell them if you're gonna do it, then good luck and hopefully. And sometimes if they're nice enough, or I can understand everybody could be in a financial bind or something like that. I may give them some pointers like a thermostat or something they can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. So I just tell them, make sure you turn the power off first, because if they touch a couple of the wires together, they can cause a short or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I might give them some pointers like that. But there's certain things that I really wouldn't recommend a homeowner doing. I don't care how mechanically inclined you are. It's just if you don't have the technical ability, and it could be misleading online when you see these YouTube videos and stuff like that. People think they know. You could really go down the wrong road and get yourself in a lot of trouble. I mean, even if it may work halfway or something, it might not be working right, or it's just good to have a professional to come in. Like in a heating situation, you could have something deadly if an exhaust pipe is not vented properly or has cracks in it or holes in it. It's almost like a car exhausting into the house. So it's good to have somebody, even if you don't do it like every year. Somebody should be coming in professionally and just laying eyes on things every now and then just to make sure you're safe. I've been at people's houses not for HVAC, just visiting, and I'll look around in their basement and see something. Hey man, you might want to call your maintenance people or whoever, or I can come back and do this or whatever, and just pointing stuff out to them that they have no clue. So I feel like you should definitely have somebody come out regularly to check things out. A
Yeah.
professional.
Donzel?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that to piggyback a little bit, that preventative maintenance is one of the best things that you could ever have. Someone coming out twice a year really is what it is. Once in the fall, once in the spring, to kind of prepare you for the winter, and then prepare you for the summer for the AC season, and same for in the winter time for the furnace for the heating season. Because you can catch a lot of different things beforehand, so that if it is costly and you really don't have the money, we might be able to try and figure something out for you that we can do that could help you for the time being. Or, there's other times where, we'll try to do, I can't speak for every company, but I know most companies, they'll do, like financing and things that way so that it'll better help you if you can afford to, pay for it in total right then and there. But yeah, you should always have somebody coming to check something out, whether it's just to make sure you're prepared for the season or to let you know, hey, you coming up on a little bit of a closer time to where the life expectancy for this specific equipment or this specific AC or furnace is about it's about to go out or it's getting close. So if certain things start to happen, this is the reason for that. But it definitely helps for overtime and just that way you can kind of catch things.
Yeah,
So
can I
don't
piggyback on that? Like, this is something I wanted to say when you said I just had a brain freeze when you were asking earlier, something that people may not think of, or I forget exactly what the
the
question
myth,
was.
debunking the myth.
The myth.
Not the myth. Like, what was one of the first questions you asked?
Oh,
It was
that was customer service.
no, after that. I'm sorry, I don't
Uh,
mean to make you go back,
oh
but
no, it's okay.
just something
Oh,
about
when
the
they think,
trade.
Yeah, they just think of a broken air conditioner. When they think of the
Yeah.
trade, that's the only thing they think of.
Okay. So I
Mhm.
was gonna say one thing that's a proven fact is that 70% of the furnaces and air conditioners that break down are due to lack of maintenance or something that could have been caught on the on a maintenance check or something like that. And it's very well proven. Like since I've been doing this, people that have their stuff serviced regularly don't really have problems. But people that don't have them serviced for years and coils get dirty and filters get dirty and don't get checked and replaced, and those are what we see. Like if you're on call, that's the main calls that you see is usually
Mhm.
maintenance items that were overlooked or just neglected for years.
And
So
so
Yeah, that's true.
people should have their furnaces checked
Annually checked.
twice a year
Yeah,
and air conditioner checked twice a year.
yeah.
once for the
Once,
furnace and then once for the air. So twice a year, the
twice
system
a year.
itself will be checked twice
Yeah.
a year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of someone not doing that at
You'd be
all.
surprised.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
there's a lot
think
of people that
I don't think I knew that people actually don't get that checked because that's part of like just
having a
I
house.
guess yeah, just I
That's
mean,
Yeah.
because
what you
I
would
mean,
think.
eventually at some point you're gonna have to go to the doctor, right? At
Right,
some
same
point,
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
yeah.
So I'm just like, why wouldn't they get that check? Like, even
Right.
if you I don't just once a year, like, hey, hey, your blood pressure is a little this and that. You know what I mean? Like at some point, years and years and days and weeks go by, and you don't think to have somebody come out and just take a look.
Yeah,
Um,
I've gone out and people, I said, have you checked your filter? And they'll say, what filter? Like with the air conditioner,
Yeah,
they
they
think
don't even have a
there's not a
clue.
filter. Yeah. So, and it'll be filthy dirty. I've seen filters not changed for like 5 years before. It's crazy. And it's
Yeah,
full of dust and dirt. And then they'll want to like replace it with some allergy filter after having after having the filter in there, or they'll have a bunch of cats with full litter boxes and then say, "Oh, I don't understand why my allergies bother me so much in here." It's just
yeah.
crazy.
wow.
I was about to say, yeah, I've had customers call and they don't even know if the equipment is even located at
Yeah.
all. They don't even have
Sometimes
a
even the
clue what you're
thermostat.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they're like, you trying to help them over the phone and you tell them where to go to the control. You'll say the control for the equipment and or you'll say thermostat and they don't even have a clue of what you're talking about. They'll literally ask you, is it this thing on the wall? And you not being in their home with them, you don't know what they're talking about, but you try to help and hope that that's exactly what you're trying to get them to be able to use so that they can control the heat or cooling in their house. But yeah, a lot of customers don't even have a clue of what the equipment is at all. So and it happens a lot more than what you would think. Like you would think majority of the world knows what's going on as far as the equipment in their house that keeps them comfortable, but they don't. They only know or try to learn or become more knowledgeable about things like that when it becomes a problem for them or when it stops completely and then they have to figure it out. That's really the only time.
So
But
when it's a disruption to their life.
yeah, that's the only time. For the other,
and then they want you there like right now, like to fix it.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And then they get
Yeah.
they get super mad and angry and pissed off and they'll try to argue with you if you can't come right away. But everybody around the world there's always somebody else that has it just as bad as you or worse. So it's more or less you need to pay attention and understand what you have in your home equipment wise before you buy your home. That's what the best thing I'll say for that. Just that way you can never, not have something checked out or looked at.
Yeah, do some preventative maintenance. So we were talking about some young people. So if you have a young person that's like, man, I'm not really good with my hands like that, and I don't really solve problems, and I don't really know about that. They're afraid. They want to start, but they're not sure that they can do it. What what advice would you give to them, or what suggestion would you give to them to say, hey, you can. If you want an apprenticeship process, start an apprenticeship, or you want on a job learning after you go to school, or if you want to be open to it, what advice would you give them, Lance?
First of all, there's a lot of different, you don't have to just be a technician in this field. You can go into sales, you can go into counter sales. Um, you know, if they want to work on the phones, there's a lot of different avenues getting into this business without, just being a technician, an installer, or a service tech. So that's the main thing I'll let them know is that. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Donzel?
Yeah. I would say the same thing. Kind of don't get so caught up in, especially if you're not completely mechanically inclined, I guess, in a sense. It's funny because I used to be the young guy that would be always asking certain questions and things, or going up to different guys that are, mechanical engineers or doing HVAC, and just asking different questions. And you can always be in that field, but you don't have to technically be working with your hands. Like Lance said, you could be in the office, you could be answering the phone, you can be, counter sales or a salesperson. There's tons of different things that you can do, and it'll also, with you doing those different jobs and not being in the field, it still kind of helps you learn, or at least keeps you knowledgeable on what the guys in the field are doing, or what they're going through, or what parts they have, or what each part does, different things like that, where it's being picked up from, just everything across the board. There's a lot more to it than just being in the field. We're just getting the equipment to either repair it, replace it, or install something. But there's other people within our job that help us get that equipment, or help it being, and if it needs to be ordered, or if it needs to be sold a certain way, or something to that extent. So yeah, definitely don't get so wrapped up in not being able to work with your hands, because there's other jobs that you can do in within HVAC or any trade, besides just being in the field.
Well, that's
Yeah, and a
good.
lot of it is like on the service side, especially, you use your brain a lot more than your body, which can take you further in life, in your
Yeah,
later years anyway.
yeah.
So like if you get into it, all depends on the individual, but I just recommend them to try it, or if you don't like it, you can always move to something else.
I
But
mean, and then
Yeah.
too, what I was just gonna say is, I mean, even if you're not good with your hands, who's not to say that you won't be once you get started?
right,
You really
exactly.
don't
Very
know,
true.
just
Yeah,
try it, try it, if you go on the side where you got to use your hands and your body and you feel like you're not doing good, okay, well, let me go over here to sales. I've been listening,
hmm,
Yeah.
hearing him sell it over here,
yeah,
and so there's options, there's room, you got
hmm,
some spaces you can go to if you feel like, well, I'm not really good at solving puzzles and
yeah,
putting stuff together, but you know what, but I can get somebody to buy a piece of mustard if I, what I'm saying, if you give me the opportunity, you know what I
right,
mean?
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I mean, and then too as well, even if you don't, I don't, when people get so caught up in not being able to use their hands, honestly, I wasn't the complete mechanically inclined with using certain tools when I first got into the trade. And I found that out. You find things out when you start to do something. And I wasn't completely inclined with a lot of the tools that were used in the field. There was like different type of shears and cutting tools that you have to hold a certain way to be able to cut. And if you haven't been doing it or haven't been using those tools, you won't be inclined with that at all. So once you get into it, it may discourage you when you first start, but you're learning. So once you learn and you've done it for so long, a lot of this stuff you'll be able to do in your sleep. So you become mechanically inclined. And it won't just be you at work. You'll start doing stuff around your house that you know how to do now because of
hmm,
what you learned at work. So
So you have to start to be great. If you
yeah.
don't start, you're never gonna know what you can do. You have to put one foot forward to at least start. If you two could go back to when you first started in HVAC, what advice would you give to yourself, Lance?
um I would say invest in yourself more than you do into companies. Like, that's one thing I learned. I mean, I always invested in myself by getting a lot of training and learning, but there was a point in my career, especially working at a company over 20 years, where I invested myself and kind of fell for the smoke. Like, they would tell you, they would pump your head up and make you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, and which is, it may be true, but they only want you to go so far as they want you to go. You know what I mean? And I would just say keep an open mind to that, and try to main thing, just in a nutshell, just invest in yourself. Like, and that
So
doesn't
keep
mean,
learning.
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by that.
Keep
Yeah,
learning.
not necessarily like go out and get your own business, but yeah, definitely keep learning. I got like there's this NATE certification, which there's only 40,000 technicians nationwide that have that, and there's probably a million people that do HVAC. So that sets you aside. That that's one thing I took a lot of pride in. Almost had that over 20 years now, but don't fear learning and bettering yourself. I mean, contractor's license, I've taken that test twice. Just any type of training, a lot of this newer stuff, technology, we talked about AI and all that stuff, robots and all that, but a lot of it is coming to where you are going to have to start really using your brain and not your hands, because everything's so, plug and play kind of like. But yeah, so you definitely want to stay up on the technology and keep, investing in yourself and learning as much as you can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Donzel.
Never get too comfortable with where you
Oh,
are.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go. Never
definitely.
get complacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, just uh wish I probably would have started off with it a lot sooner. I think if I would have known, I kind of knew about trades, but I didn't really know much about what a trade actually was besides what my mom did, and having a cosmetology license or a barber per se. I didn't really know too many other trades besides that. I would hear what a plumber is or HVAC, but I never knew what the stuff actually meant. So, maybe if in the career center thing for me, we had it, but again, kind of like what Lance was saying, like you were taken away from, you possibly being able to, do something college prep wise for a class or to get you closer to going to college because you're going to the career center to, try and learn a trade. So it was like kind of a give and take. I never really had to hear, you can't go to college because of it, but it would definitely hinder you from you trying to get into college because you're taken away from that with trying to learn a trade. So kind of the same thing, but I wish I would have been more interested and more curious about it fresh out of high school or maybe while I was in school. Of course, I was playing football, so I wanted to
Yeah, that's
get
cooler
into
than
college,
HVAC.
and yeah, and then that's really the other thing. Anything that's cooler than something that you really never heard about or you're not really familiar with
Hmm.
is going to be way better in your mind or to the average young person's mind as opposed to trying to learn something that they have no interest in, not really worried about, don't really know who does it and why it could be important or any of that. So if you are, and when you do have that, then it kind of opens up a totally different door for you. Like, I work with a guy that's probably about 3 years younger than me, about 3 or 4 years younger than me, and he knows a little bit more than me just because he learned a lot of stuff right out of high school. So he's that much more, ahead of me, I'll say knowledgeable about things than I am just because of how he started. So if I could have, went straight out of high school and jumped into HVAC, I probably would have done it. Knowing now what I know, I definitely would have tried to start like right out after high school. It probably would have pushed me a lot further than what I am now. But different things happen. So, I'm appreciative of how everything played out. But if I had maybe like 4 more years before I actually started HVAC, I think I'd be a lot better off, as far as knowledge and where I'm at as far as doing HVAC.
Yeah. So to those listeners out there, if you're in high school or you're graduated from high school, do your research. That's what I'm hearing. Do your
Yeah.
research.
And
Check on all the trades.
yeah, I think the main thing is like I said, like when you're young, everything you want to be in the in crowd and what's cool. And
Hmm.
like I remember I started when I was 21 years old doing this, and people were laughing like, yeah, don't you do plumbing? Yeah, he a plumber or he a maintenance man, because I would drive the work van. And that used to bother me back then, but over time, it didn't bother me. And then I see where they are now. The maintenance man has left them in the past. Now they're really maintenance men. but but no, but as a kid, but I've been thinking about getting back into this, and it's some things I want to do, upon like retiring from this trade. Or I'm never gonna stop doing it, but I like to give back to the community by showing kids that this is a cool thing to do. Me and Donzel talked about getting a YouTube page and
Yeah.
kind of just because there's a certain face you put with this too. Sometimes you think it's just some old guy, smoking a cigarette, fixing the furnace. But it could be a cool young black dude too that can fix a furnace maybe better than him, but
Yeah.
than the guy with the cigarette. But yeah, so I just want to kind of I'm gonna put some things together in the future, and maybe we can come back and do a part two to this interview
Yeah.
once we
Yeah,
get
Yeah,
that
for
because I
going.
sure.
mean, it's important. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it because
Hmm.
I'm not seeing or hearing, and just you said exactly what I was thinking. Like, I remember hearing it in high school. I never knew what it was, but I didn't think it was something bad or something like it was something
Hmm.
degrading or, like you got to downplay what the person is doing. I never really knew exactly what all entails, but that's just people who are purely uneducated. You
It's
know what I
just
mean?
ignorant.
To think like, oh, you this and you don't know the difference between an electrician, a plumber,
And the HVAC
HVAC test, and
person.
a tree trimmer. That's
Yeah.
that's their problem. But
Right.
I just feel like personally that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you both on the show because I feel like there needs to be more respect
Hmm.
and notoriety brought to the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's getting more popular. I saw a guy on Instagram. He has a
I
heavy
was just about
following.
to
It's
say that.
HVAC services, and he's really with the guys from Earn Your Leisure that do the Invest Festival down in Atlanta.
Hmm.
And I've gone down there a couple of times, not even on that, but now that he's putting he's starting to shed light on the HVAC trade, and
Yeah.
so that's making it more popular as well. So I kind of see it. It reminds me, it's like it's about to take off, and I think that might help, to gain more interest to people,
To bring it
young people.
back. I
Yeah,
mean, because
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
always been around. I mean, let's
yeah,
just
it
talk about
has.
it. It's
Yeah,
never
Yeah.
yeah,
died down and went anywhere. But I just
It's
right.
feel like
it's the
it
fact
just
it's the fact that trying to make it a okay thing, a cool thing to do again, to make it more known as far as what all you can do in your life with it and where all you can go with it and understanding it's not just the trade. You could look at it further along than just the trade itself. You could teach a lot of people. You could bring a lot of people together with what we do. So, um, I think that's what it's more about, trying to get back to that and letting kids know that just because it's not football or it's not social media, you're not streaming or, who's to say in the next 10 years or so, there'll be people that are streaming installs,
Yeah,
streaming an install or streaming service call that they're going to do a diagnosis. So um, it's just understanding what's going on around you, but also understanding what can go in the HVAC and what all can be used for, and it being for the better good. And that's whether black or white, or it doesn't matter, foreign, it doesn't matter. It's really for everybody. It's just a matter as if you want to get into it or not, and not looking at it as it needs to be cool or it needs to be, if it's something that you're interested in, go for it. Don't be discouraged because you think your best friend is going to clown you because of something that you want to do. Because who's to say once you start doing it and then tell him about it, he might end up wanting to do it too. So
Exactly. And I mean, and you know, to piggyback off of that for sure, it's you make, you know, a career out of improving other people's lives. That's the gist of it. You
basically,
make a career, your career is improving everyone else's life. So so glad to have you on the show. That is the end of our show today, listeners. I hope that I'm sure you have taken away more than what you thought you were going to today. Thank you, Lance and Donzel, for being on. And
definitely
the,
stay on the
the
lookout for us.
everyone knows that we uh appreciate everything that you do because, you know, our comfortability in our lives, the elderly, the kids, the people everywhere, you're needed all over the world. So we appreciate you. Be well, be at peace, be inspired, stay inspired, and pass the inspiration along to someone else.
We connect like that. Put the world on pause, let it all unpack. You ain't gotta say much, just relax, lean back. I'll talk. You feel we match. We on air now. Turn it up, sit back, vibe out. New day, new talk, no doubt. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We on air now. Real life, real laughs, real sound. You found your place, you home now. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.